past 24 hours, the Brandon Aiyuk situation with the 49ers has really developed into a whole new aura, right? We're seeing teams showing interest, teams submitting packages, the 49ers actively engaging, talking with Aiyuk to figure out a solution to this whole situation. And with all this new information revealed, we've actually found answers to three potential questions, probably the biggest questions that we didn't know before, which are what does Brandon Aiyuk want? What do the 49ers want? And what should the 49ers do? The first question I offered up was what does Brandon want? We knew he wanted money, right? That's he wanted out of San Francisco. But was there anything more to it? And the answer is yes, there is. He wants money and he wants to be on a contending team. As of this morning, the San Francisco 49ers were actively engaged with the New England Patriots to get a deal done because the Patriots had a great package that sent Kendrick Bourne to the 49ers, presumptively a first-round draft pick next season, and potentially other compensation. And the 49ers were very intrigued by it and willing to accept that offer and move forward. But before they could do that, they said to Aiyuk, hey, it's up to you now, right? They want to know if you're willing to sign long-term, yes or no. Is this a contract you like? And Aiyuk not only said no to the contract and the Patriots, but he said no to a contract that would make him a top 5 annually paid wide receiver. He walked away from top 5 wide receiver money. That's a lot of money on the table. And it's what we all thought he wanted. But in reality, yes, he wants to get paid, but he also wants to contend. So by saying no to the Patriots, it shows the final response of what Aiyuk wants, which is not only money, but to be on a contending team. The second question that was answered is, what do the 49ers want? We knew they were going to get draft compensation, some really high picks, first rounders, second round picks, you name it. They were probably interested and had the ability to get that selection of picks. But we also now know that they want a veteran wide receiver. That's why the Patriots and the Browns packages were so intriguing to them. It's because they packaged a veteran wide receiver into that mix. The Patriots were willing to part with Kendrick Bourne, who had a great season last year before his injury. Actually had some familiarity with the 49ers, having played there prior to the Patriots. And then the Browns were willing to part with Amari Cooper in order to land Aiyuk. And it shows that the 49ers want some draft compensation as well as a wide receiver to help minimize the impact of losing Aiyuk. So knowing that can change the trajectory of what they might be interested in trading for. They want compensation, but they also want a veteran wide receiver. Now, that's not to say that they aren't willing to make a move for a trade like the Pittsburgh Steelers, for example, where they don't receive a wide receiver in return. But I do think it adds to their willingness to have a trade go through. There's players on the market to be signed at wide receivers, like maybe Michael Thomas, but I don't think those group of players are intriguing enough for the 49ers to just sign them and move on. They probably want somebody in their eyes who's had production a little bit more recently. I love Michael Thomas as a player, but he didn't do well last year. He had no sign of production. Amari Cooper had great production last season. Kendrick Bourne was uber productive before his injury. So all in all, the two questions that we know the answer to thus far is Brandon Aiyuk, what does he want? He wants money and to be on a contending team. The 49ers, what do they want? Draft compensation, but they more importantly want a veteran wide receiver. Now, the final question I presented was, what should the 49ers ultimately do, right? What's the end all be all for San Francisco? In my opinion, the 49ers, when it's all said and done, should be walking away from this whole situation with Brandon Aiyuk signed to a new contract. When you look at the 49ers and how they're set up, they're in prime contention for a Super Bowl championship, right? They're in prime contention to win one. They have all their players in their prime, all their players firing on all cylinders, and they have chemistry and camaraderie with their team. By trading away Brandon Aiyuk, you take away a wide receiver who, yes, you can debate. Is he a top 10, top 15 wide receiver? But at the end of the day, makes you have a lot of talent and a lot of explosiveness on offense. With Aiyuk and Debo, you easily have a top 10 wide receiver duo in the NFL. As I mentioned, they have a lot of their players in their prime. CMC's 28, though. Debo is 28. George Kittle's 30. Trent Williams is 36. So knowing that, you realize they're in their prime, but they don't have much time left in their prime. And understanding that makes you realize the 49ers just need to go all in. They don't have time to play around and say, well, you know what? We can get somebody in the future with a draft pick and have someone to help minimize the impact of losing Aiyuk currently. At the end of the day, Kendrick Bourne isn't Brandon Aiyuk. Amari Cooper is 30 years old. And what we've always seen is once you get 30 as a wide receiver, more times than not, you really lose a lot of your production. So the point is, anything you do to try to minimize the impact of losing Aiyuk isn't going to be very helpful. Keeping Aiyuk around now and keeping him on your roster allows you to have talent that's guaranteed, but also chemistry. He's already been there. He had 1,300 yards last season. Who knows what's next for him and Brock Purdy? Keep him around. And from a money standpoint, the issue is, well, we don't want to make him a top 5 wide receiver paid annually. What I'd say is sometimes you got to bite the bullet and pay the guy. And in this situation, the 49ers needed to just that, pay him, right? And worst comes to worst, if they get to a point next offseason where we really can't handle this whole cap situation, you trade one of them. You trade Debo, you trade Aiyuk, you trade somebody, and you make a move. Will you get as much value? Maybe, maybe not. But that's one of those situations you have to be willing to live for the greater overall good of the organization in terms of trying to contend for a Super Bowl. You can't win a Super Bowl if you don't have the right guys there. And Aiyuk is proven to be one of those right guys on the team. So at the end of the day, you should pay him and keep him around. One last thing to note is the NFC is only getting harder every year, right? I know it's kind of a joke in terms of the AFC being so much better than the NFC, but the NFC has talent there now. Caleb Williams and the Bears, they're not there yet this year, but next year, they could be a little bit scarier. Jordan Love and the Packers, they're getting a lot better. They're very young. The Lions are getting better. The division the 49ers are in, they have the edge in it, right? But you give a year or two to Kyler Murray and Marvin Harrison to grow. That's a scary duo right there. The Rams are always good. And then you have the Seattle Seahawks, who have a formidable force defensively. And who knows, maybe they find a quarterback of the future next season, and that puts them into contention. The Falcons, one of the best defenses in the NFL, mixed with Kirk Cousins, Michael Penix coming up next. The NFC is not getting any easier. So if you want to contend and compete, you have to do it now. So pay the man now. Let me know your thoughts, guys. Thank you for listening, and please subscribe.